Hello, people. This week I made a horrible decision and decided to go with the Amityville Horror. Now, it's a horrible decision for me particularly because I do horribly with horror. We'll get into it. I'm a little sick. I'm gonna try not to have too many issues. In any case, the Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. I believe this is the book that started the whole rigmarole, as they say. Let's get sort of the stuff out of the way. As a book, is this good? Is this a go-to? Not particularly, right? Now this is the good and the bad because of the subject material. It's trying to be more fact-based, more like I'd say modern biography, where we don't want a lot of extraneous descriptors around. We just sort of like just the facts, bare bones, this kind of situation, right? Which you would say, well, why is that? What do you mean by especially this book? It's a ghost story, right? But the selling point is that it's based on true events. That's the big crux of the matter. So based on, real events, and it's 1979, I can see why you picked this style to write it in, to really lean into that idea, right? And the more that's believed, the better for your story. That's the root of the whole issue. And that's where my issue comes in. Because, what do we call it? Suspension of disbelief. Mine is very high. Well, what do I mean? Well, when you grab a book, any book, right? These are pictures, right? These are pictures on a page. They aren't, let's say, real. You have to pretend. You have to forget what you're actually looking at is a book. It's papers. It's words, right? And imagine now. So you're forgetting the reality and you're just implementing this other thing in your mind, right? Suspension of disbelief. I'm going to go with the not real. That's how I see it. Maybe I'm using that wrong. In any case, that's what I say. So mine is very high, meaning whatever I'm reading, whatever it is, I'm going to sink into it 110%. Whatever thing the author wants to get across, I'm going to absorb. And when it's fantasy, when it's biography, that's great. When it's horror, not so great. If they want you to be terrified, I'm sitting here terrified. If they want me to have nightmares, I'll have me some good nightmares, right? And it takes me a second to stop, put it back in its book form, and then let it go, right? So I typically don't even read horror. But I decided to because I need the content because I'm a YouTuber now, right? I can't read for fun. In any case, and that's the root, that's the whole thing about this book. Because as you go through it, there's going to be fantastical things that happen. And even for, let's say, people who like ghost stories, it might be almost too much. Like everything sort of happened. And this came up in real life. I'm pretty sure the Lutzes. I think the Lutzes got sued a couple of times. There's been lawsuits. There's a lot of issues around the Amityville Horror situation because some people don't believe. They don't like that it. Remember in 1979, if your book says based on true, it should be, it was a high standard for that. Versus now where people don't read as much, it doesn't matter as much. The last one I remember it mattering on was that guy hanging out with Oprah, right? And he's like, this is my life story. But then it turned out I was making a lot of it up. And people got kind of salty, right? But other than that, it doesn't seem to phase people as much. But, there's more options for entertainment now than they had in 79. So this has had lawsuits. Of course, you have some people who, I don't believe in ghosts. Nothing you say can make me believe in ghosts. Well, if you don't believe in ghosts, this book's going to do nothing for you. Probably the horror genre won't do much for you anyway. That's why I can't rate it higher than a 3. There's nothing in the book itself that's a draw here, right? And even the book itself isn't that great, again, given your disposition. If you're just going to go with it and believe every word of it, it's tremendous. If you come with sort of suspicions, maybe not so much. Also, I wonder maybe if the movie just wouldn't do you better. And there's certain reasons why, but it's the way he writes it, he's not getting across to you that inner, right? So, like you're in a dream and you know the rules, but you don't have to say the rules. Sort of things like this happen in this book that make it make more sense, I guess, when you can see it, when you see, the whatever's happening in their mind. Actors can get things across. It might work better as a movie compared to this book particularly, or maybe there's other Amityville Horror books that would do a better job. I'm probably not going to read those, right? I'm not having fun right now. They're going to get me, bro. To understand we have two things that are very interesting, and then they get merged together, which doesn't always happen in real life. And it's all in this house, okay? First up, and then this is true. Dude went to jail. There's actual crime footage. This isn't make-believe. Enter one Ronald Joseph DeFeo Jr. If some people are young, you might not know what this cat did. If it were just this story, this is an interesting murder mystery by itself. So, they're in this house, him and his family. It's a large house. He gets a long rifle, a big gun, and shoots everyone in the house. You're like, well, that's happened before. Hold on. Every one of them, and it's mom, dad, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters. That's a lot of people. All of them were shot in the bed. They're all lying face down. None of them ran. I think there's evidence that maybe the sisters and the mom were awake when they were shot. Still didn't run, didn't move. Shot them all once. Boom, boom, boom. Mother and father shot twice. Boom, 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 boom. It's a lot of rounds. Did any of the neighbors hear? No. So I'm like, why didn't any of the neighbors hear? It's not like we're in a rural area where gunshots are normal or distances are great. Why did no one get up? Right? It's very weird. So, he kills them all, and then later, he goes into Henry's barn down the road and says, you got to help me. I think my mother and father are shot. They go. It's not just mom and dad. It's a full-on massacre. A massacre on its own would be kind of wild. For a second, he tries to blame a mobster. That falls apart. Then he's like, okay, it was me. I don't know what happened. I don't remember. It all went so fast. Then comes this story, of course he was on drugs. Heroin, LSD. And he was doing what we call transcendental meditation. Now, if you're a horror kind of fan, you're like, oh, I already know. This is already not good. So this mysterious horror show of a murder happens, right? He goes to jail. There's this house sitting here. Realtor's like, gotta sell it. What do I do? Enter 1975 December. George and Kathy Lutz. Just a family. He's trying to make it happen. They get shown this house. It's the dream. I think there's a pool. There's a boathouse. There's I don't know how many bedrooms. And it's $80,000. I'm like, that sounds like a lot. But the guy knows his business. our George, and he knows it should be $180,000. It's $100,000 off sale, and the realtor's like, it's because the DeFeo family got killed here. No one wants it. He's like, not a problem for me. I don't worry about that mess. Not only do they take the house, they take the DeFeo furniture is still in there, obviously, except for the bloody beds. They keep the furniture, and they get one of the daughter's wardrobes out of storage. They buy it, and their daughter now can use it. And so again, if you're a horror type person, now I wonder if this has changed from when the 70s to now, right? Where small clues are big bells that ring in people's heads. I don't know. All I know is the moment you're saying some of these things, I'm like, that's not good. What is it? The DiCaprio meme where you're pointing, you're like, no, that's bad. You keeping items. Evil spirits get in items. That's not good. Side note. We're talking spirits, ghosts, this kind of thing. I don't want to get into any kind of religious debate in any way, shape, or form. Again, it's a book. Like I said, I'm going to believe whatever's in the book anyway. So we'll just keep it contained to that and not wander off too much. Okay, back to what we were doing. I mean, we're all going to think what we're going to think, but I still got to sort of judge the book, right? I think that's fair. In any case, they keep the little girl's clothes, the murdered little girl's clothes, and they put it on their kid. And so now they got this sweet house. It's not dilapidated. It's right there. It's ready to go. He wants to move in quick. They end up forgetting the keys, which, again, they're all little, like, subtle craps, right? So if a subtle thing happens, you're supposed to take that as, like, that's a clue of, I guess God's trying to save you from these evil spirits or whatever. Enter one. They're like, we need the house blessed. So they call a Father Mancuso. The names aren't the names of the people. He said he changed them to protect their identity. I guess it's supposed to lend its credence to the believability, right? I don't even want fame. I just want my story told. This sort of thing. I'm like, the priest, because he interviews the priest, and he'll intercut every so often, to break the wall of the story and say, I interviewed this way. Again, adds to the real ability of it. The priest woke up and he's like, he could already tell it wasn't going to be a good day. That's not good. He goes down to have breakfast with the other priests. And they're like, what are you doing? I got to go bless a house for the Lutzes. And then he gives the address, and they're like, that's the DeFeo house. And he's like, no, they're the Lutzes. They're like, no, the dude DeFeo is the one who killed his family in there. The other priests tell him, bro, don't go. And I'm already like, the crap? That ain't good. That's some heavy vibes if priests don't want to come bless your house. The priest, to his credit, the priest does go. And he blesses the house, but he just has this overwhelming, I need to leave here feeling. And then he hears a voice, a disembodied voice, just say, get out, right? And I'm like, I could only listen to this crap during the day. It's too much. I can't handle it. Priest Yolo's out of there, but it doesn't leave him alone. He ends up with, what do they call it? Stigmata. That's where ye old person, of faith or not faith, I think there's been stories of people without faith getting these issues where you get, without doing it to yourself, these wounds that match, Jesus's wounds or some kind of affliction to yourself, this kind of thing, right? It's supposed to be religious in some nature to Catholics. I don't know, do Protestants do stigmata? I have no earthly idea. In any case, he ends up with these horrible blisters on his hands. He'll have, and it just comes in waves, right, throughout the rest of this month, because they only stay in this house a month. And a lot of things parallel, right? So they're poking around in this room. He gets this horrible headache. He feels like he's going to vomit. At one point, he's smelling some horrible, sulfuric, stinky smell in his room only, no one else's room. He gets angry with other people. Right? And he's aware, like, this is not good. He has horrible flu-like symptoms, and then they leave, and then they come back. So it's pretty rough for him. This priest, though, is a bit of a... He doesn't get good marks by me, because at some point, they're like trying to call him, right? Because they're like, I think we need help from a priest. And that priest is like, oh, Lord, don't call me again. I want nothing to do with this. And I'm like, bro, you're not supposed to... You're a man of faith. You can't just leave these people. You got to go... You're supposed to go in there and fight the demons. He ain't trying to fight. What is it? He wants none of the smoke. He's trying to get out. It's kind of funny. Like, you pansy priest. But then from the priest side, like a cardinal or something shows up. And he's like, we have, people for this. Trained exorcism experts, if that's what it is. We haven't decided. This kind of thing. They're very professional about it. It's very fun. So what's happening with the Lutzes? Well, what happens with the Lutzes is literally everything you can imagine. What was it? Poltergeists, stuff's flying around the house. We're getting full body apparitions. Almost from day one, they start to feel this aggression. And that's why I say it might work better as a movie, because as events go on and the way he lays them out, you're just like, leave, bro. Just leave. You don't have to deal with this. But they never leave. But it's something to do with, I guess the house is affecting their mental, right? So they're not seeing things clearly. It's sucking on their soul or whatever. And this rationale just doesn't exist in their mind. And that's why they end up staying so long, right? The father gets upset. All of them get sort of aggressive, violent. The kids fighting with each other when they never did. The doggo snapping at people and, choking himself on his chain, just out of control. The dad, just getting intense about it. He'll stare at a fire. He'll stare at things. He won't leave. None of them leave. The dad won't go to work. The mom won't go get groceries. This normal adult things they just don't do. And it's the house, just the wave after wave coming at him from the house. He gets some weird obsession with trying to get into the boathouse. He just can't ever get into the boathouse. And he also, I think they get the idea that he starts to look like the DeFeo guy. He goes to a local bar, which is the same bar DeFeo went to. And the bartender thinks he's DeFeo for a second, just because their look is so much alike. Which, in the 79, that's not outlandish. A lot of hippies with long beards, this kind of thing. But still, add it to the other things. The wife, she keeps getting, grabbed, right? Like, something will grab her hand, something will grab her around the waist. And she plays it off like something's there, like, get off me, leave me alone. But then, of course, nothing's there. This kind of thing. Just horror show stuff. They at one point, she sees a face at a fire, just screams. And in the moment, the shock of it will hit them, and they'll react. But then before they can finish the reaction, right? Before they can say, let's get our things and leave, some other thing will happen. A window's open. All this cold air's blowing in. So then the natural response is, let me go close the window, right? And that action seems to distract them enough to not to deal with the overwhelming craziness that's happening to them. It's this kind of thing, right? Day after day. And it just keeps building. At one point, there was a room full of flies, which shouldn't even be alive in this time of winter. Like, literally, they don't live but, 15 days or whatever. But the room was full of them. This kind of thing. They see things out the window, but nothing's there. They find a red room. Okay, there's in the basement, there's a hidden room, and it's just red. And I think they see like a hideous pig with like red eyes. So when he goes to the bar, the bartender's like, you'll find a red room in there. And he acts like he doesn't know he already found it to get more information out of this guy. And the guy's like, I heard they sacrifice pigs in there. And then the pig thing, and he freaks out. And then, of course, us readers, this family, the Lutzes, were practicing, you guessed it, transcendental meditation. You're like, this isn't good, bro. That's the same thing the DeFeo guy was. And he killed his whole family. At one point, they bring in like a medium lady, and she's pointing at stuff, saying stuff like that there's a well. They say something about like there's a well, and like ancient spirits are just coming up through it. Not. I think at one point they want to make a point to say it's not angels or demons. It's something older than that. This kind of thing. This evil from in the earth, or some mess like this, right? Everyone's telling them to leave. Family will come over and then just sort of freak out. A cop come over one time and just got the sensation that he was going to vomit. So like mid-sentence, we're talking, and he's just like answering while grabbing his coat and just leaving. Right? This kind of abruptness to what he's doing. They see green slime coming off the walls at some point. And then, again, they're just like matter of fact, like, I got to go clean that up in a minute. I'm like, bro, I don't need to see half of this stuff. I'm out. I don't know what to tell you. I don't need to stay for this. At one point, he says he goes to sleep. He wakes up, and his wife is just levitating up through the room. And I'm laughing. Again, even at some point, I'm like, this can't all be... You can't think I'm believing all of this, right? But then I'm like, why not? Why not? And that's what I say about belief. If you believe, it's crazy. If you don't believe, it's just silly to beginning to end. But as you go, you start to, again, you rethink of the DeFeo murders, and you're like, oh, there must have been these evil spirits that helped kill that family. What ends up, right, because what ends up cracking the nut for him is the mom sitting there, and she's like, the kid drew something. She drew this horrible pig, right? With this kid's drawing, a 5-year-old's drawing of a horrible pig with red eyes. Which I think the mom had seen, right? They have shared visions. In any case, the mom had seen it. And then she's like, well, what is this? And the kid's like, it's the angel. His name's Timmy, or some mess like this, right? Kids are out of their mind. You should meet an alien. You just make friends with him. Look at the crap. The kid's like, this is an angel. And the mom's like, nope, we got to leave. My baby's not going to think this horrible demon pig is an angel. We getting out of here. Right? And so they finally make like the decision to leave. Windows have been busted open. Doors keep breaking off their hinges. All this kind of thing. They finally decide to leave. When they go to the car, like a storm's whipping up. The car won't go. So the storm hits, they have to go back in. It's like a freak hurricane level storm right there on the coasts. And it just rages. Right, so they're stuck in this house one more night. And that's some of the worst stuff that happened to them. Things are, they're seeing monsters come out of their rooms. The kids are running here and there. The dog's freaking out. They're like challenging the monsters or whatever. It's a complete horror show that last night there. Like, the dad was like, I think he said later, he was afraid to go check the car. He was sure he could go check it. He was sure it would work. But he was also sure, he goes, if I left the house, I didn't think the house would let me back in. So he wasn't going to abandon his family, right? This kind of crap is just going ham. They wake up, they just YOLO to the car. They don't take any of the stuff. None of the stuff. They YOLO to the car, almost flip the van getting out, and just leave and never return, right? They go to in-law's house or something to this effect. Spend the night there. They think we're done. Plot twist, you're not done. He wakes up, his wife's floating around. Next thing, he's floating around. They grab each other, they're going outside, and up the stairs or downstairs, there's a full apparition with some horrible face, just pointing at him, this kind of thing. Apparently the evil had followed him, right? He then cuts to an investigative team goes in after they've been out. See what happens. And a lot of their stuff happens to them too. They see some slime, they hear some voices, but then have their equipment so they couldn't scientifically study it. This kind of thing, right? And that's how he sort of leaves you. Like, here's this outside group with no ties in, who just straight investigated, and they said the same things happened to them. Uncorroborated between anyone, right? and that's it. The father gets cured once they leave. It all ends up, but they don't follow up. Like, did the crap keep following them? All this kind of mess. We don't. The book sort of cuts off there. And then I'm like, that's it. It was a horror show, and then they leave. But the way it's described, we don't get that inner monologue as much as I think you could have needed or used. Those explainers as to, like, why did you react the way you reacted to obviously crazy stuff, right? You don't get enough of that in this book for me to highly recommend this book. But it is a crazy, interesting story as far as ghost stories go. And, believe what you want. I know a lot of people didn't. And there's like 5 movies of it, a couple of TV movies. I like the 1978, I don't know what, 78, 79, whatever the older movie is of it. Maybe I got the dates wrong. I like the old movie version of it. I don't know why. It's just fun. Maybe because they didn't have all the CG. Maybe. I'm not sure. In any case, that's the Amityville Horror. Never doing that again. I will read more horror. I just reluctantly will. And it'll have to be in the middle of the day. Because I am a chicken. Okay. Ad time. These are my books. They're definitely not horror. Read them and not be scared, right? That's fun. That's funner than being scared. Who wants to be scared all the time? You horror fans are weirdos. Yeah, I said it. Okay, people. This is buying these books how you help the channel. You don't have to. You don't have to subscribe. You can do both if you want. Doesn't bug me or anything. I'll see you all next week.